you're good.
Okay, we will go ahead and call our work session for the Orem City Planning Commission to order at 4:35 p.m. on May 21st, 2025 in the City Council chambers. We're going to continue our discussion about land use, probably not very much, and then get on to redevelopment. Although I don't see Matt. Is Matt coming down?
It turns out Matt has a graduation tonight, so redevelopment will have to wait until the next time so we can dig back into some more stuff with land use. We don't have to not talk about redevelopment. We just won't have the benefit of what Matt's been getting ready for us.
Okay. One sec. Okay. All right. We're taking care of some technical difficulties. Okay. I think we're ready to start.
Okay. Whenever you're ready to get going, we'll start talking general plan. I'm going to let Grant take you through these slides. Is it okay over there that you're okay to come over here? Yeah. Okay. All right. I will step out of the way and let Grant take it away.
Okay. It's a little loud. All right. I sent over a review document for y'all from goals and objectives. We took all of your comments and incorporated those comments into a revision of the goals and objectives that you saw last time. And so please take some time to review that. We're still finalizing access for the Google Doc, as I addressed in the email, if you didn't see the email, so that we can share a Google Doc version that will enable everybody to add multiple comments, comment on whole paragraphs, comment on maybe single sections of a full draft chapter of the introduction and land use. And so once we've got that finalized, we'll enable everybody to, I think, make some more additional comments than what we've been able to review so far. And so, but in the meantime, if you have comments on what I sent you today, it's really loud. Oh my goodness. I can turn it down. We'll just have to put it further away. If you have additional comments, feel free to send those back to me with the Word version, or you can just forward them to me via email, and we'll add those to the commentary for the updated goals and objectives. Can you guys see the slides on your screen? No? Okay, let me see it.
And yes, while you're over there, if you could turn the mics down just slightly. Thank you. While we're waiting for Grant, did you guys have an opportunity to review those? The email he sent out with the goals we worked on last time?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it? Okay. Okay. Check your email. Should be there. Should be. Yeah. Couple hours ago. Do something. And use your mic.
Okay, that's better on the mic. Can you see the slides on your screens now? Okay,
Thank you.
apologize. So we went through the goals and objectives. Obviously, we'll continue to revise those, modify those as we need to see fit. So we thought today, actually, what we'll do is I have three current. We will only need two. If everybody was here, I had printed three. So we thought it would be interesting for the purpose of updating the land use map as needed as part of the land use amending this general plan. We've discussed different classifications, buffer areas, and future studies. And so what I think we'll do is we've got a pretty wide work area here at this desk. We'll take a few minutes now to come down and draw actually on the existing land use map, mark it up. I've got Post-it notes. I got markers for us to just take some time to talk about these things. So I've got these slides kind of out of order a little bit, but so classifications that we had included and discussed in the current version I sent to you, we discussed, doing some future studies or analysis of our existing classifications to evaluate adding some. So I've mostly listed the at least on this here on this slide, the specifics we've discussed about adding some classifications. Obviously, during this exercise of drawing, adding comments to these maps, we can discuss the existing classifications as well. Those are already mapped. And so for the purpose of remembering the new classifications that we've discussed so far, this is obviously not exhaustive list we could still discuss additional classifications as we fine tune this discussion. As we continue it in the future, I'm sure other classifications may come out of our other discussions of transportation, economics, redevelopment, and housing, so that we can continue to fine tune this, I think, as we go. But I think this is a pretty good list for us to start with for today. Buffer areas, I think this has come up in other discussions, but I included these. Obviously, I don't think we necessarily specifically talked about or drilled down core buffer areas for the city. But I think this is a good starting list from discussions and relevant projects and studies we've already done. But obviously, as we invite you down here to draw on these maps and look at them, we can carve out and identify additional buffer areas. I'll ask that if we do identify some new ones that are obviously not on these lists, let's write them on a post-it note, and then I can include those already in another revision of the goals and objectives, because that's where I pulled at least the classifications. And then future studies, this was the future studies we had identified as part of the existing goals and objectives draft that you have was sent to you and we've discussed. But I think I added one that was kind of a comment, but I think I need to add it to that section. But we've got the commercial corners, Geneva Road corridor, mouth of Provo Canyon, State Street corridor, full corridor, also the segmentation discussion that was held, Southwest area, the implementation of stationary plans and neighborhood nodes. So as we come down and do this exercise, we can identify, oh, hey, there's this gap too. Let's identify that as a future study. So we'll take some time now to, maybe we'll start with classifications or whatever you want to start with. I mean, it doesn't really have to, I just make sure I can bounce back and forth between the slides if we need to refer to it. So take a few minutes, come on down.
There.
I need to grab another table. You go.
They're gonna stand there. Because I should grab a
Your
table.
on your, I'm afraid you're.
Oh, yeah. We can put it under there.
Just for general purposes. Okay, so we talk about buffer. We talk about buffer along State Street. Let's actually point to what we consider buffer and what is and is not buffer, because do we actually really have any buffer that is along State Street? Because we're almost everywhere butts up against residential in some form or other. What do we consider buffer?
Which
Kind of-
area? Like
yeah.
how much distance? Or
How much did all of the above?
We had buffer because of the wall and the
Yeah,
road
but this
here.
is all.
We gave that, some
gave it-
people gave that up like
Yeah.
a couple weeks back.
Kind of got three different colors for buffer.
Okay.
These are where we want.
It's the same, oh, okay, so we just have a
Yeah.
Some of
duplicate
it's
here.
also
There we go, I was like, what?
Orem Boulevard.
You can look over there. You can come over with us too. Either way. We're not shutting you.
Sure, it'll actually be easier if we move the table out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's move
scoot
it.
it this
Jerry?
way a little bit.
Jerry.
Let's
We're
just-
gonna come that way.
He's trying to turn up the stereo.
Okay.
Turn it down.
just go
We were
this
trying to
way.
go out this way.
Yeah, but you can just do this.
We just didn't want to knock over Jerry. That would be really weird. Okay.
Laptop went.
It's like here, buffered by a big
I'll
wall.
remember to come over and tap it
But it's a
sometimes.
wall
I
of.
can just flip it around and all this.
Tap it every once in a while.
I don't think we have a definition of what.
Do you like this setup where it's the
In such a way
duplicate?
that.
Or do you want me to make it the presenter version? I like it
Well,
like
it's
this. So I
basically
just
kind of what we have in code.
Okay. Is that what we want?
I personally don't think so, because walls can change. and whatever.
But I think that that's some of what we need to be working towards the definition of.
I think that's probably, when I think of buffers,
Yeah, let's talk about,
you usually start like with a landscape buffer or a wall or whatever. What is the buffer to include other things, like what's allowed to happen within a certain distance?
That's what I'm thinking, within a certain number of feet of X.
Yeah, exactly. Townhomes, for example, a lot of times you see, you take townhomes and allow townhomes up again, so you got an M2 or a zone that allows townhomes, a zone that's single family. And the big concern of people in single family homes, have the townhomes back in the midst of the flood. And we look at that into my backyard. A big homes have those terraces on the top. So it's easy to say, if you're going to locate townhomes, for example, within a certain distance of living, they're going to have a third floor that can be that two-story basement, that kind of thing. Those things, that's buffering. That's you have to think outside of the whole wall and authority version of buffer. So, I mean, we don't have to do that for the general plan, but the general plan should direct whether that's the kind of thing you do on state or not. And in some areas, that's a residential one, right? But commercial is the same way.
Can you buffer also with types of businesses?
Absolutely.
So like,
Yeah.
you have certain businesses here, but back here, we're only going to allow small strip malls or whatever. I'm just, whatever first thing came to mind.
Sure. Well, like if there's areas that maybe should be more buffered, then we could be looking at those different classes of commercial zoning that don't allow heavier uses or uses that are more uses that are more that are tend to create nuisances that run later hours, that run offices and medical clinics and things. You usually get pretty good neighbors for residential because they're not open late. People vacated, they learn to drive stick shift in that parking lot. That's how that all works. Those make good uses. So do we look at classifications of zoning, or the general plan tell us, look at classifications of zoning, but in here, yeah, we can have heavier uses at all of these various crossroads. Eventually, maybe we should do it. But if we suck, we have a lot of residents right down to that. We've already got all that traffic. How do we do that? I don't know. Is that the kind of thing about what you're talking about? What do you think?
I think I like that definition. This is here for the elementary school.
And something from the classification perspective, this is a park, so it's a public facility. So if we did add a classification, this would also be mapped. Right now, we're in these classifications.
Because this is the current land
This is the
use,
current land, general plan land.
saying this is what we want here.
This is, yeah, this is basically. Modification based district.
So on that subject, I think we should have a classification for public. They're less likely to change those things.
Yeah, well, for
that
this
would
one,
match-
yeah, for
that
this,
would
we
match.
need to add a public facility.
Yeah, so we already have that on the list. But
Right.
but it will say, hey, yeah.
Well, and then the buffering to me is only, I don't know what the code is honestly, that certain things can't happen within so many feet of public facilities.
Correct.
Correct.
So we do have to watch their straight off the State Street, I think. on the
And then these,
There's
water
also,
retention down there.
well, here,
Right on State
let's,
Street.
And that's what we won't see right now.
I mean,
you want to just draw in.
that's what I'm gonna start
Highlight
going.
them? Yeah.
So this one's public facility, they're gonna just be.
Close the school.
Why is that considered, is the city center not been? I have to get, I can grab my
That-
Sony map. We need to
that
know
is-
there.
I should have.
I can grab mine.
We didn't want to necessarily use
Schools.
No, I know, but just to,
But if you wanted
I will
to
go
use
grab it.
them,
you can refer me one. Do we have, where's the, I guess we could put the rules in, I'll go ahead and grab.
Schools are gonna be public facilities.
So that would be.
I think that was in states, when we made our.
You know, you did it. I don't.
I do, because I think we should be able to map. I think it should be an identical zone, but it needs to be. I think they need to be further addressed. Schools to make sure
Looks like
actual.
it.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
This is only one.
yeah, I don't think they're functionally different, but I think for color difference.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
This is Cascade Elementary. And this is whatever that school is. I don't know.
Canyon View.
Tiny kiosk, it's not the fire station. The north.
16th North.
Oh, that little detention thing. Okay. So I don't know.
You know why it keeps turning off?
No.
You're not plugged into your power.
Oh,
So when you're not plugged in, with your.
Wondering about that.
What about over here?
So over there,
That's Mountain View.
we have Alpine, we have Aspen up here, we have Bonneville there, we have, that's Mountain
Mountain
View,
View.
but you also have, because it's
All
two
that, so there's
things.
a park
We have
there.
Mountain View, something like that. I'm just being quick here.
Oh, yeah, yeah, totally.
And then there's the rec center.
The rec center
Geneva.
there.
And Geneva's over there.
Yeah.
And then
Geneva Park and Sungrass.
we have a PF over in the middle of the industrial zone over there, right in the center, south of Cooks. Just right in the middle over there somewhere,
Something
Somewhere
right
here.
here. Because this is Vineyard.
Well,
South of Cook.
just south of Cooks. Yeah, it's,
So those-
yeah,
There's the road. So
right
it'd
there
be
in the
like
middle.
right
There's
here.
PF there. There's PF down further south. We have like the middle of a block.
something
Can you,
over
I
here.
can't reach
Oh,
that far
that's
to mark
because
it.
this is the city's.
That's the
Yeah,
Public
that's-
Works.
Yeah.
It's right up.
Public Works Department buildings
Yeah.
like that.
And then back across Geneva, we got that.
Yeah, right here.
We're quadranting the city right now.
Yeah.
PF is all that area over there. That's some of it's built in, but it's all the area behind.
Right here.
Yeah, I just can't reach over there.
Yeah.
Grab this.
Okay, so let's see, reach
So
out.
there's the corner, it's up here.
Green.
It's up here.
Yeah.
Because it's the sewage
That makes sense.
treatment. Here. These are houses.
Oh, right over there.
This is the sewage.
But it's showing it's going all the way into here.
Yeah,
It's all of that.
it's all of that. That's not,
So.
basically, it's not residential over on that side. It's
It's like,
PF.
It's the these are the water. These are the little
Oh, and
lakes.
Mike,
It's
get
these
the-
water lakes right
Get
here.
the Lakeview Park. Is that Lakeview Park? Ball fields. We have a smidgy bit of, did you mark blue? It's public facility.
I put University.
This right here comes to.
That's supposed to be blue.
Well,
I mean, yeah.
Not the hospital. That's the hospital.
That's a hospital.
Hmm?
That was
That's
the
a
hospital.
This was Geneva
Oh,
Elementary.
Yeah.
weird.
That's really weird. Just do
Sharon
your
right
best.
here.
golf course.
It's over here.
That's Sharon.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep. Sharon Park.
And then we got Cascade and we've got the high school. Wait, yeah, the high school park. We have more parks. We're missing parks.
We're down here.
Yeah.
Hang on. 8th East. It's right here.
Yeah, that's Hillcrest. We have some little bits of it. Like, why is there a
You
strip
got Cherry
down
Hill over
eight-
here.
Why are there strips down 8th East that say
You
PF?
got a school right here.
Yeah, well,
There's something here,
Got-
is that what you were saying?
Lake
Yeah.
Ridge Junior High right
yeah,
here.
there's a small little place, piece
There's a
down in
spot right
there.
here.
It's right there.
Right there.
Oh, it's at the fire. That's
training
the fire training facility we approved.
Right here,
Yeah.
give or take somewhere. There used
Yeah.
to have a school here, used to have. This is, what is this? This is a.
Nelson's
Camp
Grove
Corps
should be
Junior.
on here somewhere.
It's right.
Here. There's glare right there.
Oh, no, it's right there.
There it is.
There it is.
Right by that roundabout.
There's a little triangle that's the undevelopable land right there.
They're developing it right now.
So
Well,
this,
it's next to it. It's the area next to it.
so
Yeah,
that's,
and that one's
Yeah.
flatter
Public-
than the undeveloped.
that's a PF?
It's it's PF. There's also one along the highway. South of, it's a little spot
Southernmost part right here.
right there, yeah.
East.
What
That's
is-
most of them.
Are these green ones
UVU.
also public works?
I did green as university.
Oh,
Yeah.
university, okay.
Which
That's-
we've talked about making a separate
They
one,
have
a separate
This
designation as
building
well.
over
Exactly.
here.
And it makes sense to do that.
The old school is now UVU. You always hate them even because you need them. Because the only reason you need them is because they exist.
That's one of the elementary schools.
Where?
Bonneville?
No, not Bonneville.
I'm not sure where you're.
I think
pointing.
no,
I
it's
got
not that
the one
one.
over
Oh,
by
it's
the-
here. It's this
Yeah,
one.
that one.
So, okay.
That's Cherry Hill. That's Cherry
There are a
Hill.
few other tiny little spots here and there that are PFs, but those are
Yeah,
most
you
of them.
got the water retention basin up there.
Well, and on
Right
4th
here.
South,
That water retention over there.
Right there.
This
You can
one?
take it.
Nah, it's not the whole thing. It's just,
It's just this
it's
little
just a little
spot.
triangle right here.
Okay,
Where's the water?
okay.
On
we've got
Fourth
some
South.
up near.
Right there. Is that a park too?
We've got some.
Oh, wait. It's
No, that's the park. That's
It's right. This
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, that whole thing right there. Water.
that is a surprising amount of land out of Orem that is schools and public facilities.
Yeah, we have a lot of kids, so.
We do. No, it's not a bad thing, but when you pull it out and you look at it and you go,
Mhm.
Map all the churches. And look at all-
oh. That-
You look at
oh,
your tax property.
that's another thing I wanted to
It
ask
should all
about,
be untaxed.
is when we were reading through for residential and somebody had something
Except for
attached in our
this.
packet.
That's
But
business.
it talked about churches
Well,
and what
it's
churches can
business.
go, and maybe we need a better clarification. I mean, I think we're all fine with churches and neighborhoods. But like, it seems like it's not written well into the code as to where it can be and in what types of neighborhoods. So we may want,
Just a use allowance.
yeah, so that's something we may, as we look at the residential, may want to look a little more into. I'm not anti-church. I think we should have churches in our neighborhood. I'm just saying, but I'm just saying how we list it in our, yeah, how we talk about it. But a lot of our churches are also being removed. We've lost at least, I know at least two church buildings, two off the top of my head, but I'd go by frequently, that have become housing.
When it comes to these buffers that you're seeing here, as I was going through the entire list of uses and so forth, one thing that, you know, you guys have mentioned and which I think that we're not really clear about is this idea of this space, this buffering space between the residential and large retail. And this idea of using the wall can only be effective in a certain way. And so it's the question of, do we need to create a specific zone for that type of, you know, making sure that that transition is smooth and allow some of those things to kind of trickle out, you know, into the residential area. And so it becomes more of a gradual kind of shift that takes place, you know, and what kind of friendly things will could we allow to happen there?
And I think this is where we've talked about some of what is the existing housing stock along here already. Like this is, we already are saying on our land use map that this should be high density or medium. I can't tell colors. They don't look the same. Medium density?
I think it's medium.
Medium, okay.
Fourplexes.
Fourplexes, but this is
almost all the
where,
way down.
but I was gonna go back
Townhouses.
to Gary's point when we were talking with the city council that having a better idea of what is already here may help us buffer better along here, because if it's already, that's what a lot of this is, as then maybe we don't need to really do
Can I
anything.
tack on to that a
Yeah.
little bit? Because that's one of the, Grant and I were talking earlier about affordable housing, and I've always believed that your first step in affordable housing, or looking at your affordable housing, ought to be identifying and preserving the affordable housing you've already got that you think is worth keeping. So some of it might be beyond repair, or not what you want, kind of, but that's where that,
Yeah.
what you're talking about comes in space, or comes in line, because if we can, and that's programs, that's, because those landlords, they need a little incentive to be good and keep the properties up and rehabilitate them. And if they're usable and then they're going to be more likely to be affordable. You're not reinventing that wheel. New housing is always going to be more expensive, even when it's designed to be affordable. Existing fourplexes, duplexes. So if that's already bordering your back buffer, let's identify that through that kind of housing study. That's very important.
Yeah.
Especially with the market now.
Oh, absolutely.
To overcome the extra high costs of land and materials and labor.
Yeah.
That makes affordable housing developers have to go that much further.
Yeah.
To then have to struggle to make a 50% EMI product.
Right. But it is a choice.
Yeah.
It is a choice you have to make as a city, that Orem has to make as a city. Do we preserve fourplexes and duplexes along there and maybe try to enhance them? Or would we rather as a city that they get removed? Because they will, eventually they'll become run down enough that some developer might even put up townhomes. But those townhomes are more expensive than those
So-
fourplexes were, and you may not want those.
When we're talking about these, buffers, just like conceptualizing this, we're not encouraging the development of rental properties.
No, but if there's.
We're talking about home ownership and encourage people to have,
Trying to protect
homes
them,
of the-
so they don't
right.
sell out, so they don't want to leave. So your single family owners that are close to state don't want to.
So that's not those because those are rentals.
oh yeah, well, see, that's my point.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them we're talking about are rentals today.
What we're
Well,
talking
and I think
about
that's what we
here,
need to identify, right? We
Right.
need to identify.
this
Yeah, because I mean,
is your affordable spaces.
Those are the
Smaller,
affordable
older
areas.
homes.
Well, behind the mall too. I mean, where Jerry is, that's a
Yeah,
neighborhood that,
there's a tiny little spot right here.
yeah, that's been encroached upon continually. But
The
those
neighborhood
homes,
that's been molested by the mall.
I'm trying to protect your neighborhood.
Too late.
20 years.
Let's save what there is.
There's going to be a
Home Depot.
right there,
Yep.
How do they put that in
60 feet
with
from
the
my house.
limited parking they already have?
That was what my thought was about that too,
So-
but
Because
that's a
they
different.
obviously don't have the space for the parking.
So every time they develop a new building, they count the entire lot for parking.
Yes.
For each individual building.
Yes,
they're
and they
already
have the
short.
parking garage.
Parking now.
They have parking garages here that they're counting. There's underground parking here. But yet people are going to come here to go to Home Depot and they're coming here to
Yeah,
Costco.
So that's to answer
there
the question
any-
of how they're able to develop that.
Yeah, that
because
is.
They're counting
They're
it.
counting everything, which we should also consider changing in
Well,
what we talked
need
about
to
building and
change
parking.
the share nonsense that they got going on there because
So,
you can't share a space. Those people are there during the day, they're there at night.
so if,
So are the customers. You can't share.
maybe this is off topic question, but if they're going to build a Home Depot here, are they going to move this? Because I thought there was talk at one point of moving
The access?
the Costco gas pump somewhere, but it's,
Talks about moving the gas.
We don't have an official application.
okay,
In the concepts, I've seen the pumps.
okay.
Not sure where they would put it, but
I don't remember. It was all.
In the parking.
Probably,
middle.
probably.
Over by the,
you
The
pull
place I like-
underneath.
your
and-
tire
In the place where they
changes.
don't need the
Place where
pump,
I
that's
like
obvious.
parking. No, anyway, where else, Mike, would you with your vast knowledge.
Yeah.
So here, there, that big
I would have
section.
said
there.
my
There-
neighborhood, but it's not anymore. Like
Yeah,
everybody's neighborhood.
there's a lot of older housing down.
What about this housing right in here? This older, smaller,
Oh, along
along our
First
street?
North.
Isn't that, what, aren't those
These are four
somewhat
gold four
reasonable?
squares.
A lot of older homes there
I
as
don't
well.
know. That was my question. I'm not sure what the rent is.
Not
Yeah.
reasonable, but more reasonable. But that's a great,
That's some older homes
the
too.
housing studies.
There's a lot of older homes here. This is where I grew up.
Yeah, well, these are all fourplexes.
Well, you got
But
fourplex
right
here
in here,
and you
yeah.
got single family homes there. A lot of these fourplexes.
This is a
like
nice little
disaster.
neighborhood. Yeah, those are a mess.
They've been there forever and there's more that needs to some serious work over here.
So these fourplexes
I
are.
mean-
yeah, I
When
mean,
we
I guess
say,
we don't
should
know.
we tear them down and put townhomes? Yes,
Yes.
because they are slums. They're not maintained.
And this is where there's crime. This area is one of the high crime rates in Orem.
So right in Main Street, all this over here is
Grant finds the grant.
older houses. Actually, most of this stuff is old.
Yeah, right over here, there's
Older
definitely, right in this hole right there is all older, smaller, or duplexes type situation right next to us right
Yeah,
there.
you got duplexes, fourplexes, townhomes.
And then little small houses that have been there obviously for a really long time.
So you could even take this up like this.
Yeah,
Some of my best friends lived in those.
yeah,
First postmaster Orem lived right there.
wow.
Clyde Weeks.
No, for staff.
Well, all I know, guys, is that I was looking into maybe renting something here in Orem
So
and
you
I
don't
can't,
have-
I
we can't
cannot
do development in our
afford a
city
one-bedroom
and-
apartment
It's our
on my
house.
salary.
Because they
Just
require
letting you know.
2.5 times rent.
So,
Yeah, it's ridiculously out of control.
Yeah.
We just need it to pop.
So
yeah.
when we talk about these areas, are we proposing a zoning classification that will determine what can happen to that property?
That's,
Preservation
So,
clause,
yeah.
that might be an option.
to keep smaller homes rather than knocking them down,
Yeah.
making it a more expensive.
Well, that's my
neighborhood.
point.
Yeah, that's some of what we were talking about last time too, about trying to identify these areas and some of our historic areas and some of our other things. So we can say, let's put redevelopment into this. Let's put money into revitalizing these neighborhoods because that is Orem.
Older single family, smaller homes that could be affordable, save them. Because that's what's missing. You can always build towns. You can always decide, we're going to build towns. You can always decide, we're going to build apartments. You cannot.
That house
I mean,
right
even with
there
our R8s, none of
was
those
built in
neighborhoods are turning out
1892.
R8. They're all like 10,000, 15,000 lots on the whole with maybe one or two 8,000 square foot lots. So, I mean, and I think that's, again, goes back to some of the stuff we talked about is I think we have to identify what we really have. Because R8 may not really be the overall standard in Orem. It might not actually be it, and that maybe we need to adjust
Yeah.
some of those numbers to actually reflect what we have.
So I'll go on the record, I don't believe R8 should be the overall standard.
I keep finding that I don't think that it is the overall standard.
I think when we talk about R8, what you said, lots become bigger and we're becoming an enclave of wealthy people and pushing out those who might want to rent one bedrooms or whatever. That's my
So I think
soapbox.
the R8 standard has been for empty space. It's really what the push is, not to knock down and
But I think it's causing some conflict. I think it's an understanding.
Yep.
Of what we have and
well, last meeting, great example. These were R2 at one point, now they're R8.
Yeah.
Even though none of the lots fit in R8.
no, and again, I
So
think if
we've just blanketed a definition over something
that's arbitrary.
that's already not
That is
what it
something
is.
else.
Yes.
And
And I-
when
And
that,
so
when that
it's
happens, it makes it
confusing.
very hard for people to actually make adjustments to their
Yeah,
house.
and that's what we brought up to city council.
Because you've got a 5,000 square foot lot and they're saying, oh no, it needs to be 25 feet front, back and side, 8 foot and so forth. And it's next to impossible to make adjustments to that space. So why would they want to invest and put money into that property?
Yep. That was our point to city council.
Let me tell you, I hear that stuff all the time from
I'm sure
people
you do.
calling in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All day,
No,
every day.
well, I was trying to come up with an example, and all I could think was flag lots, that we've had a few flag lots that have come before us. I'm sure you are front line and you say no to a lot more, but,
Oh, yeah.
or that you can't do that because of the code. And so,
Because of that, they are 7,500 square foot lot. There are eight, they need 18,000 square feet to qualify. for-
exactly.
And they maybe only have 12,000, whatever they have.
Yeah.
So that's the first.
Yeah, because it's 125% with the flag lot that's required. So for an R8, that means 10,000 square feet.
And if you're starting it at our 6.5, which we've had before,
Yeah,
it makes it almost impossible.
Yeah.
So that's why I think getting this updated to match. And I know we've also had to do zone changes, which is onerous for an owner to come in and have to go through the zone change process
Just
to get an
500
accepted.
square feet.
Yeah,
Especially when they're not the ones who changed it.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I
And
think,
at that point, it becomes very subjective.
Mhm. Yeah, well, you look, we have little lots that are just here and there that are probably those of what have happened.
So the dark blue, just so I'm clear, dark blue is PF, right?
Yeah.
And this is university, the green, for those
We
listening.
have
And these are areas we ought to look at preservation in some ways. It's not
older,
necessarily
smaller homes.
older, smaller homes.
Yeah,
where-
preservation, rejuvenation.
Preservation, revitalization of existing housing stock preservation areas. Something we'll come
Are
up
you
with
sure there's not some up here by me?
I don't know. Do you know? What is
Uh,
Yeah, we're getting to find.
'Cause I don't
There,
know what the
there are
difference
some old
between
homes. I mean,
yours-
like here's the
Because
Nerdens
where is that,
right here.
that area
but
that
then
they,
built those new houses
when they
there.
were doing 16, when they were doing 16 and they said, where was that? That's off of 8. Oh, really? That's where? Ah, okay.
That's the new districts.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have went here right along the canal.
Yeah. No, you got the right
See, I
idea.
grew up there, right there.
That's why you're preserving it?
Can you,
Well,
can you autograph?
one of the oldest houses in the city.
We have a
It
micro
was built in
land use-
1892.
micro
That's
land
old.
use area.
Yeah.
There's
For
some
my-
older homes.
Yeah, that's what I'm
in this
saying.
area too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm
Off
I
12th
don't-
North.
off 12th
No.
North, this area right in here.
it? Some older homes.
Because
Yeah,
I'm,
I mean-
I'm up over here.
You had the Nerdens home right here, and they owned all the orchards back here, but I don't know the individuals. Most
Oh,
of
wait,
these
I'm up over
houses were
here.
built,
My apologies. But
in the
over
80s.
here,
Probably go away tomorrow.
most of those are 80s.
yeah, down the
Okay.
hill. Same
say
with down
there's-
here, most of them.
Because some of ours are like
So yeah, make sure you.
70s and 70s and 80s. And then
Mhm.
that's where there was, a orchard. And then that got filled in. And so a lot of them, then there's
Yeah.
a section that's like older, like 90s.
Like these are the
Here's a cool tidbit
late
too.
40s, 50s, yeah.
Yeah.
The reason that these roads were done this way is because that was the order of the fields. The fields were oriented that. So you actually go on the Utah County parcel map has historic imagery all the way back to 1946. And you can see all the areas of the city with all the orchards and the orientation of the fields.
So to the point, the question, are we going to label churches a different color? Because you have these two stake centers that have a huge field right there, but
I think we should have an inventory of where all of
Like a
our church
separate-
are and not just, yeah. Because it's not just, there's not just, there's a church at the end of.
Yep.
I mean, there's different churches. We have churches down along University here.
yeah, well, I'm just,
All of them.
there's several sites that have quite a bit of property attached to
Hmm.
them. Grass, lawn, pavilions.
Well, the ones you were just talking about, there's
Former
there's
orchards.
another church right here that's
Yep.
got a big field.
This is all churches.
Well, way back when, for those of us old timers, this used to be
Orchard.
the welfare farm.
Yeah.
And then the church sold it, had it developed. There was
And we have a temple.
welfare farm.
I mean,
up
that's
there, too.
also another chunk of that kind of religious spaces. We don't have to call them churches, just,
Yeah, but they
Well,
do.
it's just that it also comes with that, they're public spaces and a lot of green that
Yeah,
usually goes along with that, so open
And if it
space
stays-
really.
If it stays, it's nice, but sometimes the church in recent years has
Has
started to
been
divest
so-
themselves of some of their properties.
Yeah.
So when they do, it's 40 lots or 20 lots.
well, and that's,
And you've got this big Catholic
Yeah, there's the Catholic Church. That's where he's looking for, the one at the end of,
Yeah,
Off
for
of
sure.
Just a
Yeah,
time
like-
check on you. You're inside of 15 minutes to the regular meeting.
that's fine.
We can come back to this. So you know, whatever you want to do, just giving you your 15-minute warning.
Thank you.
Do we get a timeout for the TV commercial
You
at
can
this
have
point?
a commercial break.
And we can choose to do what we did last time, where we pause this, go to our regular meeting and come back to this and talk for a few more minutes.
Because you could start looking at some of the other things on this list, neighborhood nodes.
Yeah,
got most
I
of them.
included community commercial on this. It's already, it's an existing classification, just more of the discussion. The concept of the
Yeah.
new commercial classifications that we talked about, I know was discussed last time.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's
Like
breaking
right
those,
there.
I think that's part of what came out of our conversation last time, was that taking some of
how are
these
they
general ones,
structured different?
what does community
Yeah.
really mean? Like, what kind of
Yeah.
things can we break
What,
down?
almost like.
Because
the
we've talked
scale-
about fourth and,
Kind of on the
That's
top
pretty
of the
commercial.
buffer, but
Yeah.
like,
Oh, was this the one you were talking about, the neighborhood type situation?
Mhm.
It kind of reminds me of up in Salt Lake City,
Oh, come on.
off of Concord and, well, California Avenue,
Oh.
up there, right next, near the middle school and the elementary school, right on that California Avenue, is this little fire station. It used to be the fire station, but it's a little restaurant. And all the kids from the schools, they'll go hang out there. They'll get a little treat after school as they're walking home. It's,
That's fun.
everyone walks to it in the neighborhood. It makes things very walkable and
This is the
more
old city
approachable.
hall area right
So
there.
it just reminded me of that feeling that you get in that situation, because then people start walking. You know?
So I'm like pondering, how do I
It's
write
hard
it?
to do that.
I don't know
My
the
awesome
exact
handwriting.
markings, but there's a lot of
Node.
old houses around
Right in there.
the trailer park.
This is the trailer park there, right?
Mhm.
it's up to the nodes. It's-
Is that the only one we have? How many
Trailer park,
parks?
trailer
And
park,
that's kind of what we
And there's
wanted.
one
trailer park,
And there's
starting to
one
identify.
off
Maybe
State
if you
Street
have
around.
some
Trailer
ideas,
park.
right?
Yeah, there's one there.
Yeah, I think there's also.
trailer park,
Honestly, if you, like, as we talk about this
trailer
area,
park.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
and
Well,
then
I'm,
I think
with
we
the
have
high school
7 of
here
them.
and the
I'm
park
pleased to know
here,
that we still have some.
it would be nice to see
This used to be a trailer park right
something
here.
in that
Yeah.
area that's more node-like.
Another critical is
Yeah.
where the bus lines are.
Yeah.
You say there's a transfer.
I have two of them,
Oh, okay.
like double barreled shotgun there.
That was the other thing we were talking about low income housing. What I was thinking about is a lot of times we don't consider the fact that low income people cannot afford a lot of vehicles, and it's important for them to have access to public transportation. And are we considering that as we're trying to protect these areas? Because, you know, it's nice if you don't have to pay as much for rent, but if you have to buy yourself a vehicle in order to live where you live,
Yeah, I think,
then it kind of like replaces that expense of the housing
Yeah.
in essence at that point.
and I see your point. He was talking to me also about like the community nodes and thinking where the bus lines are too. I think the problem with the bus lines, especially in Orem, is that I think that they need to be further discussed. They're not concrete, and they shouldn't be concrete in the way they are right now.
Not very
I mean, 'cause-
useful.
no, because when you're making circuits like this, you can see that there's vast amounts,
Yeah.
vast amount of land that's not getting
So
service.
if you can educate me on this, because I understand that part of the reason, and I'm trying to confirm my understanding, is that they are the way we are, is because we have not played ball in planning and working with them to do something better and different. Am I understanding correctly?
False.
How am I wrong?
Just because we won't let them put a bus line down State
No, I'm not
Street.
talking about that.
But that's what they're talking about when they say that. Because we haven't prevented them from running they can run a bus down any road they want.
Okay, fair enough.
I think too, in talking with UTA in the past, it's also, it's the classic chicken and egg. They need riders and not so many riders justify busing.
Sure.
But then we still can't get riders in this bus line of this, so that it's always kind of like.
When they first came to Orem, they had bus lines everywhere. Nobody rode, so they got rid of them.
Well, this is a discussion I had with one of the council members who shall remain nameless about these things right here, because this is fast turning into a disaster.
Yeah.
The assumption was when they approved these,
They'd all walk over.
was that they get to the bus stops and get on the bus and go. Well, that has proven not to be a good assumption.
There was one.
That's a Hegelian dialect because they had a bus depot right here
Oh, I know.
and got rid of it.
And there's a stop,
we have a
there's a
It's-
stop right there
It's the
too.
whole, we're gonna create a problem so that we force you to let us fix it the way we want.
So this used to be a bus depot
Yeah.
over here?
Yeah, where the hotel is used to be.
That's
a
how they
bus
started
depot.
eroding the neighborhood in the first place. They eminent domained it for a bus depot that they sold to the mall a few years later.
Way back then, there was a bus depot, wasn't there?
Yeah, my sister-in-law used to ride it to BYU, when before UVX, ride it to here, walk through University Mall and go to where she was living. That was her every day.
It's actually a nice concept. Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously, it sounds like we need to have some discussions in the transportation section about.
We will be having some serious discussions in the transportation discussion.
The problem is the transportation problems Orem has are caused by the state.
Ever. My wife drove a car.
By the.
By the state.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
Everywhere there's a corridor that's screwed up, the state is in control of it.
Yeah, I
And
was
when I
gonna say,
lived in
yeah, we only have
Virginia,
certain
northern Virginia,
purview.
Well,
to that, unfortunately.
the Pillsbury dumbass gave the state this road,
Oh, I see.
and he gave them this road.
station,
Ah.
University used to be pretty free flowing until he gave them to the bus,
you can do that.
Ah.
and now it's a nightmare.
What is this?
What is this? That's Winco, 800 North.
Wow.
So they had control of two roads, 800 and State. Now they got 4 roads. And they're screwing them both, all of them.
And by the way, I don't know how you can put that thing down State Street. You look at the existing traffic right now. You take away the center,
Yeah.
what happens? Mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Cats and dogs living together.
Alien dialect. We're gonna cause a
Oh,
problem,
is
so
that
you
what
let
we're
us
getting?
fix it the way we want.
A
And then we'll
giant
start
Stay Puft
telling you you have to get rid
marshmallow
of your
man.
cars.
Yes.
'cause
Yes, that's
Too
what
many
we get.
people.
Nobody
Yeah.
steps on my.
Only rich people can drive. Yeah.
So y'all, we have 5 minutes until our regular meeting. Do we want to pause and come back after as we
Sure.
have some few minutes to think about this?
Depends on,
We don't have to stay for long.
no.
How long? the
How long are
meeting
we
is?
anticipating the next meeting? Is it going to be?
Probably 15 to 20 minutes tops.
Probably.
Well, then I'm happy to
30
stay
to
and look
40.
at this.
Yeah, are you going to say a lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's on.
It's,
Do I
it's
not?
mostly, it's mostly all consented, it's all
Sometimes
consent
you don't.
agenda items.
It's all-
So if he ruins my evening, it's him.
It's him. It's not on me.
All right.
Game on.
Okay.
Got it over.
Then we'll go ahead and adjourn and then until after our regular meeting. Okay, we'll go ahead and call our planning commission meeting to order at 5:32 PM on May 21st, 2025 in the Orem City Council chambers. We will begin with an invocation by Rod.
Father in heaven, we're grateful for this beautiful day. We're grateful for this facility in which we have to meet and the very favorable circumstances that we find ourselves in. We're grateful that we, as citizens of this community, have a voice in what we do and in our planning. We're grateful that we enjoy that freedom in our country. We ask you to bless us during this time that we'll be productive, that we'll be civil and focused on what is best for our city. And please be with us and all those who prepare and support this process in their full-time jobs. And we say these things and ask these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, we'll begin with our consent agenda items, which is item 3.1, approval of the meeting minutes for 5/7/2025 Planning Commission meeting. 3.2, Valor Homes site plan located generally at 1301 West, 400 South, which is a proposed office building for Valor Homes. 3.3, RWB Ventures preliminary plat located generally at 1492 West, 1200 North, subdivision creation for development of 2 new industrial buildings. Item 3.4, RWB Ventures site plan located generally at 1492 West, 1200 North, proposed development of 2 new industrial buildings. Item 3.5, Abbey Road Phase 4 plat amendment located generally at 1450 North, 750 East, combining all 3 phases into one development for management of finances. Item 3.6, Sullivan Plat 5 plat amendment located generally at 727 South, 250 West, combining a portion of adjacent property to correct plat info. Item 3.7, Lake Ridge Farms preliminary plat generally located at 840 West, 600 South, proposed 15-lot subdivision. Item 3.8, Okolowitz, sorry, subdivision plat B, plat amendment located generally at 1245 North, 260 West, transfer of garage and property it sits upon to neighboring property. We I've already spoke with Jared. We need to, we can approval, but we need to remove item 3.7 for consideration from the consent agenda. I wanted to make sure everyone did see the meeting minutes for May 7th. They weren't posted with our packet originally. I did see that they were there today. Did anyone have a chance to review them?
So I have a question on that. I don't know how we want to vote. I was not there. I don't feel like I can comment on the minutes from the previous meeting.
Okay.
You can abstain.
You can- yeah.
Abstain for that part, but then I can do the consent.
Yes.
Well, do we need to remove, maybe we need to remove item, we might be pulling a bunch off of the consent agenda today.
Well, I mean, if we can just
Gary?
vote for the minutes.
That's why we need to remove it from the consent agenda. So if there's anything we need to remove, we need to do that.
Yeah, if you want to remove that from the consent agenda, what you can do is, in the motion, move to approve those items that you want approved in the consent agenda and leave out the minutes and 3.1 and I think 3.7.
Yeah.
And then you can vote on the consent agenda, and then you can, those 2 items, either approve separately, deny separately, or continue separately.
Thank you. Are there any other?
I was going to say, I'll make a motion right now, then I move that we remove 3.1 and 3.7 from the consent agenda items.
Second.
Is that a motion
To
to approve the consent agenda except for 3.1 and 3.7?
Because I know Mike wants to remove something else. So that was a little, so
I jumped in too quickly.
yeah.
I remove my.
But we have a
motion.
second on it, so we have to,
You could amend it,
would you be willing to amend your motion?
Sure.
item 3.5.
You want to, okay. Are we okay with removing 3.5? Mike wants further discussion and information about it, so.
So I will make a motion that.
You'll amend your motion.
Amend, thank you. This is why you keep me straight here, Madeline, thank you. I make a motion that we remove 3.1, 3.5, and 3.7 and approve all other consent items and then reserve those three I just moved for a separate discussion.
Okay, do I have a second? Britton, are you still seconding?
Second.
Okay, so Rod moved and Britton seconded the amendment that we approve all items and remove item 3.1, 3.5, and 3.7. Jerry?
Aye.
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 Okay, those items are approved and now we've pulled off those. So let's start with item 3.1, which is the meeting minutes. How should we handle that? Britton, are you going to, did you get to review the meeting minutes?
No.
No. Mike, did you get to review the meeting minutes?
And I glossed over them.
Okay, and I've read them briefly. Jerry, did you have a chance to review the meeting minutes from last time? No. Can we,
You can continue them.
we'll
put
continue
them
that
on
motion,
again.
yeah. Can we have a motion to continue item 3.1 to the next meeting?
I make a motion that we continue item 3.1 until next meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mike moved and Rod seconded that we continue item 3.1 to our next meeting. Britton?
Aye.
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 Okay, the items continue to our next meeting. Item 3.5, Mike, would you like to speak to that one?
My questions were about, we've got 4 different subdivisions, and combining these, have all the residents been consulted and talked to about combining these?
That's a great question because they're all the different phases.
Yes.
The homeowners, the condo owners association presidency has signed for that, made the application.
Sure.
We take that to be the case then. They'll have to sign the plat.
Did
on
they
behalf.
discuss it with the residents was my question though.
Yes, according to them. I wasn't present for those, but yeah,
So sometimes they don't. And
that's a good point. But yes, so they've held their board meetings and their association meetings to make this decision and combine them all into one plat for financing purposes.
Okay.
Then do we have a motion? Is there anything further or do we want to move to
That was
approve?
my concern. I just wanted to address that issue.
It was a valid question. So do we have a motion to approve item 3.5?
I'll make a motion to approve item 3.5 Abbey Road Phase 4 plat amendment.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mike moved and Britton seconded that we approve item 3.5, the Abbey Road Phase 4 plat amendment. Jerry?
Aye.
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 And then item 3.7 you wanted to address, Jared.
Yes, thank you. So I apologize. This was something that came up very recently. So I'll go through kind of a brief description of the project for the record so people understand kind of where we are. As you said in your opening, this is 3.7 is Lake Ridge Farms. It's a preliminary subdivision approval request. It's a 15-lot, single-family residential project at 840 West, 600 South. It's R8 zoning, about 4.7 acres. The property you can see here is made up of 3 different parcels. One of them has an existing home on it. That home is, per your staff report, that would be removed as a part of this subdivision, and these would be developed. Come back to that aerial in a minute. It is in a giant sea of R8 zoning. As you can see, I didn't have another color on there to identify for you. It's all R8 in that area. This subdivision has been planned for the R8 zoning to handle improvements that we normally require. All R8 lot sizes, for example, all the proposed and the required lot sizes are listed there. They meet all those requirements. It's been through the technical review and the DRC has recommended it come to you for this and finds no fault with it. So that brings us to why it's off the consent agenda. The applicants came to us very recently and asked if they would be able to make a change to the way that they put the sidewalk around the bulb of the cul-de-sac. basically bringing it curb adjacent. And I'll show you that in a minute. We'll come back to this slide. There is a provision in our code that does allow for that to happen, for modifications of that buffering, buffered sidewalk, we call them, to happen, but it has to be approved by the planning commission. That would be part of your preliminary, and you didn't see it that way. You saw it like this. So that sidewalk is shown standard with that standard park strip in this area. What they would like to do to make the lots work better for the home designs they want for these, to pick up a little bit of extra space in those front setbacks, is pull that sidewalk right to the curb, only where it comes around the cul-de-sac in that bulb. So in that provision, so the rest of it would still be normal. You'd see the buffered sidewalk, the park strips all up and down the road on the cul-de-sac, just not all around the bulb of the cul-de-sac. A lot of that cul-de-sac, to be honest, becomes driveway anyway. It's a lot of concrete to worry about little patches of the grass. So planning and zoning, we weren't terribly concerned about it. It is up to the planning commission ultimately. I want to show you one more thing. One of your statement that's important in all of this language is this right here. The planning commission may waive the buffered sidewalk requirement if it finds that compliance with the requirement would be functionally or aesthetically inconsistent with existing development near or adjacent to the property. Functionally, it works better for the developer, but in the area, there is a precedent for all of these cul-de-sacs that have been done in here, and the bulbs around these areas are all curb adjacent sidewalks. And all
I
up
think
and
that's
down.
most of the city, isn't it?
A lot of the city is that way. So it's not that there's no precedent for it. We do like to get that park strip where we can, and that's why we were pleased to see them only suggested around the bulb of the cul-de-sac. So I don't have any concerns as your planning staff with it, but ultimately you have to make that decision as a planning commission. If you approve it with this way preliminary, as a preliminary plan, then we can take, as we look at the final platting for it, it's okay if it has that. Otherwise, we have to reject it, and they'll go back to the other plan. Okay? So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
I'll try to get to the right slide here. There you go. Do you have any questions for, does that make sense, what they're asking for?
It's a lot of sense. It's also nice to know that we, as the planning commission, have the right to do that. I know it's
You do.
written into our code in various places, but we don't see it very often.
Yeah,
So,
doesn't always happen.
because I think it makes sense, because I mean, why stifle development for something that we can just very easily say,
Yeah, where it
this
makes
instance.
sense, where it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's fine in this case. And
Same here. I live in a cul-de-sac that looks just like they're proposing. And that's the preferred way to me.
Makes some sense there.
so
Okay.
I think we'd be fine with that. So if we are okay with that, then all we need to do is just approve.
You just need a motion. Since we pulled it from the consent
Yeah.
agenda, you have to do like Mike did with the
Right.
3.5, do a separate motion.
Yeah. So do we
Is
have,
it a separate motion with the modification or?
It's- Because you've just seen it that way, I don't really need the language of the modification in
Okay.
there. It's, you're approving
Yeah.
that plan that I showed you.
because the difference is what was in our packet and what he just showed us.
Exactly.
So we just seen that, we're saying this is, we're okay with this one, we approve this
Yeah,
one.
I would have normally I would have called it out in that staff report with that curb adjacent thing, and there would have been no reason for you to say, we're invoking this. It's not that formal, but
All right, well, I'll make a motion that the planning commission approve Lake Ridge Farms preliminary plat general located at 840 West, 600 South.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mike moved, Rod second, that we approve item 3.7, the Lake Ridge Farms preliminary plat. Britton?
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion is approved. So Gary, do you have anything for us this week?
I don't,
Okay.
other than offline, give me feedback about the new building.
Okay.
As you use it and we find things, we're always learning things all the time. It's like, oh, shoot, why did we do that? Yeah, let's change that.
Sounds good. Okay, if there's no further business, can we have a motion to adjourn, and then we will re-adjourn. After we adjourn, we'll re-adjourn our meeting we had, our work session. So do we have a motion to adjourn? Do
I move that we adjourn.
we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Rod moved, Mike seconded that we adjourn.
Aye.
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 Okay, the planning commission meeting is adjourned at 5:46 PM. And then we will go into our work session. We'll reopen our work session. So back to the map. Unless we want to talk about something else, but otherwise we can just go back
I
to
don't
the
have,
map.
I don't have anything else to get back to it.
Said 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah. Mike behaves, so good, right?
Well, it all depends. Yeah, something
like that. We're all set. We're good. You're ready to go, right?
I think you're fine.
Beautiful.
That was the right.
Yeah, not bad, right? I feel out of place. Hoagie Carmichael's in the closet full of Cheetos and I have one brown shoe. That's what they've done.
Thanks so much.
Back, guys. See you soon. These other slides again.
Yeah.
Also forgot the cemetery.
We were having discussion about churches, if we could start figuring out, like, what is this here?
That's a church.
Oh, that's a church. That's
Two
right.
churches.
Which, so there's two in this.
There's a
I
church.
feel bad doing it in black. That just seems really wrong.
Why?
Purple.
The priesthood is always in black.
That is true. So that's Churchland.
So's that.
That's Churchland. We know there's the Catholic Church we pointed out. was-
Catholic Church.
Let's see.
Fifth North is right.
Yeah. That's a
I know
church.
this because I grew up in that neighborhood. Right there's a church.
That was a little
There's
one.
another one up there.
And then there's one.
Right there's a church.
Mhm.
That's a
No, there's one off of,
historic church.
there's one on 8th. Along here.
Let's see. Where are we?
I know, that's one, it's 16,
It's
here's
right
12, 16.
Wait, no, right
No,
there.
there's right there. There's one on this side of the street too.
And there's one
One
on,
right here.
Who's there?
this is a church here too. There's one up here we're missing.
There's one there.
There, isn't there?
That one got torn down for houses.
That's the one that's housing now, okay.
There's a church.
Because I knew there was that one
There.
there, and there's the one over here by Bonneville.
Church here, church there, church there.
There's the double one,
One.
yeah, there's a double one by the high school.
And then there's one right here. That's my church. And there's one right here.
I can't reach that far.
Come on.
I have very long arms, but there's limits. Yeah, there's the ones in our neighborhood.
One right there.
Just the ones up there.
There's one right here. For some reason, it's commercial, but that's a church.
There's the old,
Solar place or whatever that is.
it's an old grocery store.
That was Reams.
It wasn't Reams, it was a storehouse.
There you go. That's right.
Is that one there? Yeah, there. I don't think that's
No, this is
this is one.
this is the IHC clinic and hospital, Orem hospital.
That's one.
I think this is a seminary building, so technically that's a religious,
Oh, yeah, to begin.
right there, a seminary
Seminary.
building for the high school.
There's the Calvary Church.
There's a church right there.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, there's a
if you're gonna
church
count
there.
those,
There's a
one right
church.
there.
And then we have, isn't the Calvary Church?
It's
There's one right along here. Mike, you know Santa a little bit better.
I think it's
I
this
think
one
it's that
there.
right there. Isn't that a church?
Let's see, there's Smarty, so that is Calvary.
What about
The temple? Oh,
That,
do we get-
that's what it is. Center Point Calvary is
Silver,
down here.
Calvary's over there. Okay.
It's on 1200 West, right?
Yeah. I knew there's one. And then the
Actually,
temple. Did we
I
mark
think
it?
it's right here.
So the temple is on,
Temple
off Geneva is.
is right here.
Yep,
And there's a church.
yep.
If I'm not mistaken, there's one there, but I can't see it.
Yeah, there's one right here.
Oh, yeah, there's
too.
the seminary. Yeah. I mean, the
Um,
ones on the edge of.
there's one in here, I can't remember right. I don't know.
This
Looks like it.
This looks like it's probably church, but I don't know.
Magnifying glass? Rod needs a magnifying.
I did, well, you notice I took these off because when I'm reading my phone, I can't see that smallest stuff.
Wait, this is the church.
I'm
right
sure
here.
that's a,
This is
pretty
probably
sure
all a
that's-
church. This is UVU now.
So 8 south.
Yep, that's one.
Okay. That is correct. So 8 south and first west. 8 south, first west.
First West would be over here because Main Street's over here.
No, it's right here.
Oh, see, oh, that's right.
So
We're that far south.
this is a church right here. It's
So
between
no-
50 west and 8 west off 8 south. It doesn't show up very well.
I don't want the mic in my face.
It's down here. No, right here. This is
50
a-
West, yeah, right there.
Between, right here is the church. Boy, it's fine print though, isn't it?
I think we missed one. Is in mine. Yeah, we didn't.
So there's one off 18th south that I don't think we got. 8 south. 18.
I'm pretty sure there's one on,
This is a church right here. West.
come on.
I can sign stuff all day.
Okay. So what are they marking up now?
Churches. We decided to mark where all the churches.
So did we put a church of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
In my scribble.
There's
So,
two ones.
kinda-
It is a good idea. I mean, because, you know.
400
it is-
west,
there's a lot
8
of
south.
there's a lot of public-
well, it is, and
Well,
it's land like we already know there's one over here, there's one over by Bonneville that have been sold off for different
There's this
reasons.
whole
So
complex.
knowing
So it's
where they
nice to
are.
know.
He was angry.
Potentially.
And
Not showing
I'll
on.
go
Very
over here.
smart.
not at all.
Good idea.
8 west, 8 south.
So 8
Wow.
south and 8 west, what's out here?
It is the church there.
Ooh. You guys are- That's awesome.
And you said 8 south and 8 west, right?
8 south.
We got
8
that
west.
one right there. We got it.
Yep.
And there's one over here. What is it called?
The one of them I accidentally marked.
And I was zooming in using my, so here's one on
But the
10th
rest of them.
south and 50 east, where's 10th south?
Always has to be one, doesn't it?
This is a church right here.
There's some. There's one right here.
Okay.
I love this picture.
Lots of church.
Mine's like,
I told you, I've been trying, my sister like, gets me I'm like, no, I know, but that's what it is.
Sign in
I
resolution.
keep trying to change it.
Signatures, that's why signatures are so bad.
Here's one here.
Signature is signature.
Right here.
There you go.
According to the handwriting. now.
There's a over here too.
That is awesome.
A lot of signatures.
Good job.
Service.
It was actually one of the best blocks.
This has to be a church right there. And
And
then
it was taught by the.
16th south, that looks to be about first west.
A lot of those things, we've done a lot of those things. We went through, we had a whole day on Jeffrey Palmer, we had lining and all the, it was best. It was a great talk.
Here you go,
And then we
sir.
had to go.
Thank you so much.
Side We can present it, but that was
16th south and first west.
the sign serial killers, we talked all about that. Best.
You're looking at the people.
16th south. All right. Got to follow 16th south right here. That sure looks like a church to me, doesn't it? 16th south and first west.
hey, I don't know. if
That it would be a
Should we find
church,
more churches?
a lot more, so that's a church.
That's a church.
And
I
then
believe
that a
that's
church?
one
That
right
looks like-
there.
I'm gonna move.
Or
That just said, maybe that's an apartment complex.
Interesting.
Or did you say there's one, Jerry?
I think there's one right there. if
Off
I'm
4
not
South?
Mistaken.
So that's 4 South and what? It looks like it's 4
So
South.
really, other than the temple over here, there isn't a church in this whole,
There is.
there has to be.
There's one up, right up, coming up from Usually Parkway. There's a double. That maybe? There's one off Geneva Road that's above University Parkway. And I think it's that
That
right
might,
there.
that looks like it. Because, yeah, there is the one, and then you turn and you, sorry, I'm thinking of driving. 'Cause there's one, there was one, isn't this a church? Because I thought, because I've come to some of the UVU buildings, you come past a church,
I've-
several right,
It could easily be.
well, then I'm trying to orient myself.
So we got the double one off St. So let me get the one on Geneva Road.
Yeah,
Come on.
that looks like a church.
It sure looks like a church, doesn't it? It's right there, right?
I think that, yeah.
Now, this is actually 4th South.
Oh, that's 8th South. So 4th South would be up here.
There's one right here.
Should have picked a color where we had more than one marker. Seriously. Just grabbed a new
I
color.
gotta go back to Geneva, find this, okay. Just above the campus, there is,
There's all the parking, and then there's a church.
right? Isn't there a church up right there? It's on, it's all the way up to 4th South?
Fourth
Okay,
South's right here, but I don't see where.
right there.
Oh, you're on that side.
There's one
But
right
There's,
there.
there, I think
There's
there's
on
one.
University too.
Because I thought you came here, came past the parking lot.
I'm not,
I thought there were churches in here.
I was on the wrong
UVU.
road. No, there is, because I drive by that
Yeah.
pretty often, actually. It's right,
Because there's a church right in there. I know there is.
it's just off 10th
Yeah,
South,
it's like right in here.
right
It's
there.
probably right there.
You got your finger on it, it's right
Yeah.
there. Perfect.
And that looks like one up there.
And
Here, borrow that.
go ahead. And there's one
That has
off
to be,
8th
I
South.
was like, that has to be a church.
That's a church.
And all the land around it.
It is a church. I don't know if the land around is church. That might be public, but,
I just assume it is.
well, it's probably a safe bet.
Considering houses are not built on it.
Yeah.
There's.
Did we get the one on 6th South? And it looks like about 10th West.
8th West.
I think
That's it, right there.
Yeah, that's a church right there. I think he's gonna have a fun time zooming in on marking this.
Well, but we should know where our churches are.
I agree. There's one right here. That's a church. Definitely.
Did we get the church that's on the way to Costco? Not that one. Yeah, I need something. That's not-
Jerry got that one.
Yeah.
And this tree down here off 2000 South, that looks like a church too.
So now you have, see.
2000 South.
Did we ever figure out where Calvary was? I missed that Calvary and
Yeah.
the one that's down there.
He marked it right there.
No, that's the other. Then there's the other one. Those two. Maybe it's that one. I think it's that one.
That's what.
Provo, that's 246. Lions. So 12 South, 2000 South. Columbia Lane, no. Maybe that's.
Ninth South, there's I thought there was a mosque in Orem. There is. The Utah Valley Islamic Center. Ninth South.
You're just crazy.
Ninth South.
You're gonna fight.
3. 352 East, Night South.
There's one
I
right
wonder if
there.
it's that.
Where's your pen?
She's
Right
got,
here. I didn't have it. I wasn't touching it. I'll pass it. So there's the Utah Valley Islamic Center. North Trader Joe's.
no problem.
Trader Joe's. Somewhere. And here is the Utah Valley Islamic Center before you get to Sarah. There's a mosque somewhere right in here. I'm not sure which building it is specifically. It's Night South. It's right there.
There's a what?
A mosque.
Oh, that's right.
I was like, I think there's a mosque, so I wanted to look that up.
Yes.
So where's that church going? I know I've been by it. Come on. Just up
Yeah,
there.
and I think we need to talk.
There's Sand Hill. Right there. 2,000. That's a church right there.
Oh, we X'd out the other.
You know, I live in a neighborhood.
South.
Down Columbia Lane. There's a buffered sidewalk.
Can we get that one? Second east,
Guess they're not.
7 feet south. Second east.
Well, in these things,
We did.
there's a great stuff. So most of them have.
Is it?
And stuff there. Any. It doesn't go, but at least the sidewalk. is 6 foot. So that's the conversation. I'll go.
There was a church somewhere. Oh, it's right there. I was like, I know there's another church over there. My mom, every time we drive past it, my mom goes, that's where you live."
On the other side of the old stone. That's something with the parking spot.
On the edge of Provo, is what, is that off the 8th? Oh, that's the middle.
South Carterville.
Now, I'm a little late. I'll be there.
Lake Canyon, that's too far south.
Oh, just remember, late on.
South Carterville. That's Village Drive, wherever that is.
It's really fascinating to see where all of them are.
I know, isn't it?
So what's this? This is just a really nice big house. How come they haven't
Standing
invited
here,
me
it
over?
Yeah.
I wasn't over there, but like, I think,
No, I think it's a cult.
oh, it's a cold. I said it's a cold, and I'm like, yes, I see blown on, so I'm cold.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, no. I think we're gonna see consolidation over time.
Of churches?
Mhm.
Yep, I agree. Just the sheer cost of maintenance.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah, I debated if that one was in, because there's the one that's in, and then you go like a block later, and then there's another one.
Yeah.
That one's in London.
Yeah.
This is right here, Great South End.
There's a church right here somewhere.
Gotta be a tiny church.
Where you at?
It's not that one.
That is
It's on this side, on the west
about
side.
Fifth South and that's Fourth West. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. Fifth South, there's Fourth West. Did we mark the one on the other side? Yeah, we marked that one.
Or Center Street.
Center Street is
It's
here.
right here.
One there, we got one there.
So
Right there.
Fourth West, it's just near Mountain View. So Mountain View,
Here. There's this one here.
but there's one east of Mountain View track. Where's the Mountain View? All right,
Mountain View Track.
that's a church right there.
Okay. And then there's the seminary buildings too, but those are gonna be hard to mark next to the high schools.
Yep.
Because there's one on,
Well, anyway, this.
yeah, there's the one by Timpanogos. There's one, I want to say theirs is on the street. And I think we marked that.
Let me do this.
I mean, there is behind Canyon View, that's a seminary. There's a seminary right there.
Meeting houses.
But most of them are in the residential zones. We
Okay,
found like one that wasn't, I think.
so here's what we should have in Orem for LDS meeting houses.
Wow.
We could just export that to a GIS map. Bingo.
It'd be nice, huh?
Probably
Well,
could.
look how many churches we've marked so far. And actually, that's maybe not too far off,
Roughly that.
roughly.
If it were a bet, I'd say there's twice as much. I'd say we're halfway.
I think
So
that's enough for our purposes right
Brendan,
now.
you have a homework assignment.
Find the rest of
all
them.
the churches.
And not just that, I want the GPS coordinates for them. Yeah.
Would you like that filtered by neighborhood?
Yes,
What about altitude?
could go with that. So
Could go with that.
a
There's,
different one separate from church while he's still hunting. I think we need to mark medical facilities.
Yes, I wanted to mark those too, because we've talked about that as its own.
Yep,
We can do a dashed line and
Yeah.
do a dashed line in black or something. Just write it down, because I know we've got the
there's,
hospital.
Just do like a
On 8th
circle,
North.
you know.
Yeah, let's see, it goes into the residential.
right, and this right here,
Yeah, and we've added this, but this
that's
is
surgical
technically,
center.
that's a surgical center, but it is currently, this is what we've talked about before. If you look on that map, this is still all C2,
Yeah,
making a bit of a dash line, and then
and this is the hospital and medical complex.
But I don't think we have any other, there are like little spots where there are medical offices, but I
Yeah.
don't think we have any, I've been wondering about this too. Do we have
Well-
any other concentrations of medical, or is
Office
that just
buildings.
professional office within Orem? I can think of where there's some concentrations right over into Provo. I can think of,
There's a VA clinic.
oh yeah, the VA clinics there
On
too.
8th South.
On 8th South and
South State.
State.
And you got the
I go there all the time.
place on 800 North, those brick buildings. There's a lot of like chiropractors and audiologists and stuff in there.
But that's just mixed professional office.
Oh, okay.
Well, are you thinking about the one on 8th North over near 10th East?
Yeah.
Well, there's CERC and there's the behavioral hospital. We should probably include those.
Yeah.
You're talking about these,
We
right?
have the CERC, yeah, we have the behavioral, that's the behavioral hospital.
Right. So, but to
And
your,
this is the CERC Lodge.
so to your point that you raised in one of the meetings, Madeline, if we're planning,
Mhm.
you know, it seems to me like we might want to designate some area to welcome and embrace medical.
I think we do too.
Like one of these?
That is in part of the
I missed
discussion.
that week. Oh.
for down here.
Yeah, I'm gonna move that for a second, so I don't knock it out. So part of this Utah City build out is the Huntsman Cancer Center. They've talked about other developments. So the question is, does it make better sense to try and have a medical innovation area?
I think so.
Does it make sense to have medical services in a certain sense? So that's kind of like, I know that's what we're getting in our conversation, but just,
Yeah, that's.
I agree, because
That'd be close to
if
the
they're
end of the
gonna
day.
do all these facilities and we want to, like you and I've talked, to have people come to Orem for stuff,
Mhm.
that would be a really good thing to, you know,
that's right.
attract people.
Like future, that would be the area.
I agree.
But I also think we need to make sure we're protecting where our hospitals are and where our.
Yep.
And I know there are pockets, like along State Street, you know, you've got some clinics and you've got things that are here and there in buildings. I don't
Well,
know if we have other,
Right near Sierra off State Street, and we're, this is 8 South, right?
most of those are professional office.
So this right here, if I'm not mistaken, is the Wasatch Medical Clinic. It's a Revere Health Clinic right there. Let me just look. Long time ago, my doctor used to practice there, but it wasn't Wasatch Medical back then.
Because we only have the 2 hospitals and then we have the 2 behavioral clinics. And like I said, everything else is small. Because like we have like the one that's just north of 16th, that's expanding a little bit, but those are just professional office spaces. We've dental offices. We have all sorts of things
Yeah.
throughout.
And I mean, at the general plan level, we could create a classification for that.
But I think our hospitals are more the hospital areas themselves we want to highlight as what they are. I mean, because you go on any map and you'd be like, oh, there's our hospitals.
Yeah,
Because this corner should be a node too.
I think so.
Because even though there's one here, it's a different corner. And I think basically on that corner, isn't there like daycares and a couple of homes?
Yeah. There
And I
is.
know there's some doctor's offices down here, the Cherry Tree or whatever it is.
Professional Center.
Yeah, but there's is it a 55 plus community? It's, or they're duplexes right in here. And then there's this little doctor's office thing right there. Or maybe it is that, no, it's not for sale.
Rewind.
We've been trying to find all the churches. Where are our farms? Where are working orchards and farms?
Crandall's.
Crandall's, right?
Right here, here.
There, the Pines have one over here.
Pines is right here
Right here,
behind my
couple of
house.
You got
That's
Crandall's
Pines.
here.
Yeah, we got the Pines here in the center.
That's a crappy marker.
I know what it was.
The Pines is right there.
And then we also have
A few down
two down
on,
here. Not this anymore, but this is still, that one's still a farm, isn't it, right in there?
that.
Oh, that little strip.
That's OS5 still.
Is it being
Which
worked
is-
as a farm right now?
This is still farmland.
And this stuff that would be in the annex would also be,
Yeah.
is that it? Here, I'm gonna
There's some over here by Harmon's.
I'm gonna hashtag this
All
just
ones?
so we know that this is not UVU.
Just little small pockets left.
Yeah. That's the school. So,
Yeah, we don't,
is there any farm up? There isn't anything up, because I know we have some OS2 up that way, or R20 up that way,
It's,
but I don't think anything's being farmed.
this
Not
is
anymore.
this stuff right here.
I was like, isn't there another orchard? I thought there was one a little further.
Yeah, by Harmon's, there's little
There's little
right
ones.
here in this MDR.
You have the cab. All lines through it.
Dash.
There you go.
Let's see. There's some over here by Drew Major's house. So,
I still haven't found Wasatch Medical Center. It's turned into like a mission for me.
We're gonna find it.
Wasatch Medical Center.
It's a little clinic. Now it belongs to Revere Health. And
It's by Sarah
yep,
Pool, right?
it's
So the pool is right here,
the pool pad. It's right in this area. That's it right
Yep.
there.
right next to Chris's house.
Found it? We use Google to find it.
This is part of the park.
That's where it used to be my primary care provider. Well, back then it was pediatrician.
They worked with some.
There's a center for change right here somewhere, but I can't
Yeah,
find it.
it's just there's an empty lot that they're gonna extend into, that's where the pumpkin patch used
It's
to
right
be.
here.
It's right in here. It's right
Yeah.
here. Center for Change is right there.
Right there. I can't see it in there,
But
but
it's there, yeah.
it's there, Center for Change.
What other? I was gonna say, what other kind of general things do we not see on our maps that we would like to see more of? Or
How old are these maps?
this one's from 2018. This is the one that they did. So this is our zoning land use map. Sorry, this is our land use map. So this is the one that goes with our general plan. So this is just kind of the general categories.
This is
This-
28.
So this is 2018. So that was,
Center for Change is right there.
The aerial
Yeah.
imagery should be from 23.
from 23, underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Classification also. 22.
this one's our actual zoning map. So this is what things are actually zoned as right now.
This one's a little newer.
This one's our current zoning. So this is what it, like, when we do zoning changes, when we do, it's hard to, this is like future thinking. This is what it actually is right now, today.
Is R5 religious? Is that what it is?
It's
No,
still
R5
not-
is just
It's
density.
still not
5,000
showing a lot of
residential.
this stuff.
Most of these are probably people who've had to come in and get their lot.
Mhm.
Because I know we had one, didn't we have one on 8th East we had to do at one point over the last couple of years where it was like,
Oh. With the little one was over here,
Yeah, that's where it was.
right there.
What's there?
The one we had with the funky lot lines that I had pulled out the consent agenda because I didn't see what they were doing. My cousin's house was just across the street from that. I grew up playing there.
so they're gonna have everybody you know. It's gonna-
It'd be a big map.
So like I said, this is what it is right now. So when somebody comes in and they're like, oh, we want to do this, they look at this map and they say that. When somebody also wants to change, they come and look at this map and say, oh, well, you wanted regional or community commercial here. So. But you can see the difference between the two. I didn't know we had R12 right there, but that makes sense going down the hill in the front of the one.
Well, that's the rich place is off Carterville.
Yeah, and then, see, there is OS5 up there.
Yeah,
But it's not, it's just,
I sit over here.
but that's park and that's park, and then further up into the canyon, it's just parks. Isn't that more? Isn't there nuns?
Well, this is the park.
Or is that further on?
Nuns is clear up here.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Oh,
That's
is
Squaw
it
Peak.
Vivian that's the first one? Whatever, isn't there one? past-
You got Squaw Peak,
Yeah, you have to turn off to
then
go
you've
up.
got,
'Cause
what's
isn't
that
it
one
this one?
with the Girl Scout Park?
Yeah,
Squaw Peak is turned off, so like over
right there.
here.
Okay, that's where it
And
stops.
then
Okay.
Timpanogos Park.
Park is right in there.
Yeah, and then there's the other park that's like right there before.
That's what I'm trying to remember which one that one is when you go down. It's there.
Provo is that, right?
Yes. that crest-
Timpanogos?
Timpanogos Park is the one that we own. It's really
Yeah.
nice. And then there's another one on the other side.
Yeah,
Just past
that's Timpanogos
We
right
go
there.
down
Right next to it?
pretty close, just a little further.
Yeah, right on the bend. It's like right
Yeah,
at
it's
the
right
end.
there.
It's right before it curves back around. It's like right there. There's the parking lot, I think, right there. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not a dam, but it's like.
Yeah, there's.
Is it it's an Orem Park?
No,
No,
it's
I think
Provo.
it's right out of-
It crosses right out of
Did they have a
Provo's.
Whatever it's called.
spillover?
Spillover, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like-
The BYU swimmer died there, trying to save a kid who fell and he got
Oh, yeah.
caught in the undertow. And a
I
good
almost
swimmer,
drowned there.
he passed away.
It's cold,
It's,
even in July.
I personally don't get into Provo River for anything.
No. It's slow right there, but it's cold. Yeah, it's very cold.
I get invited to go like tubing all the time, and I'm like, the rocks slides, dude, no way.
It's not a good,
My stepdad pulled lots of people out of there.
Oh, but-
He was the ranger in residence at Deer Creek, so when somebody gets stuck or grounded in the river, he got called
Jeez.
to help him out.
Yeah, my brain is wired for self-preservation.
You know, mostly that, it's not bad, you just have to pay attention to the current. If it's going high and cold, then you stay out of it. If it's going
no, I just
slow,
avoid it.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty cool.
I'm risk adverse.
yeah.
There's almost no risk when it's not a rush. It's pretty chill.
I personally would go to the Severe River. Very few rocks.
Sure. It is better.
So we can go back to our, but just as, I know it's really hard to keep these two maps separate.
Mhm.
So what other?
I can,
Oh, I was gonna say the station area ones, we may want to look at those, what the radius is on those. Because we have the one station area plan that covers,
Well, the plan itself has its own buffer, but it's like we could.
but I'm just saying where they are, because aren't we gonna have to do these ones too?
No?
No?
Well, I mean, that's more of kind of like the discussion itself.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure, the state has the requirements for us, as a city to do, but we could kind of set our own.
We've had those discussions with
Priority,
the legislators. They said, no, that's not what it's supposed to say. So,
Well, then they need to fix
That-
it.
well,
It's like
that's,
our own
they're
code,
saying
like-
that's the misinterpretation of some people.
Okay, then they should clarify
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, they should clarify, but it's also like it's opportunity for the city to say, what do we want to set as our own standard for around the city?
Because I do think that we need to be ahead of what the state, the
Church.
state has made a lot of indications of the things that they intend to do. And
Yeah,
we
then you
need
should
to-
get ready to nullify it.
Just seems like there's not a lot of churches marked.
That's
I
fine.
was
Too
going,
sparse over
I was
there.
going block by block, and I got about
Here.
Nice.
Well, I know of this one because this is in our state, this one on
Mhm.
10th and 2nd North.
So
There's-
block in Orem. Is it one hole or is it like quarters?
That is a good, if you look though, we tend to be like this.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a huge
State
block,
Street.
is it not?
Yeah, they get smaller on the diagonal.
Well, they're four
They're-
blocks.
That's what I.
Yeah.
They're 4 city blocks because a block is 100
Yeah, because you're doing it's 4 blocks
by 4
by
blocks.
4 blocks.
Yep.
I can keep explaining it to you. I don't
So
know.
this is 4 blocks down.
South of Carterville. Seems like there's got to be one down here.
Some of us country boys. adapt.
Well, it's
No,
interesting.
this is, here to here is 4.
Yeah.
Here to here is 4.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
I see what
here
you're
to
saying.
here would be 4 as well.
Because it's 1,200 to 800 to 400
Yes,
to
but you can also
center.
do 10 to.
Well, but you're talking about
roughly,
the
but
big
yeah,
lines.
The big lines are there. And I
So
think,
there's 4 across within the big one.
Yeah, and
So
if
there's
you-
8 from there to there.
look at transportation in the city,
Mhm.
those grids are important,
Yeah, you
right?
Yeah.
That you want to protect
Somewhere.
inside here, but you've got there's community commercial there too.
So like 500 north to 555. Jeez. So let's say we label everything.
Yes.
What's the next, what city analyst is to like input this all onto a list?
Grant,
I do.
let's try more boxes. Come on. Just teasing.
That's okay.
This. The fun part here.
Well, it's, you know, what point,
Mapping is kind of fun.
it's the one things that we want to make sure we call out, right?
Right.
Like if we want to call out these types of corners on State Street.
Yeah, that was one of the
That's one
future
thing.
study areas, but we
Yeah.
can say, hey, we can, how to, you know, we can for sure highlight those critical areas. We talked about kind of the entire Geneva Road corridor as a future study, but then also,
Cute commercial with two story. I just, you know, if we want to manage the intersections, I think that actually talking about these
I think,
Yeah,
corners,
these are some of the,
like,
because the diagonal,
That's the
the
canyon.
State Street cutting across everything the way it does really makes it hard to have good flow.
Well, according to the previous mayor, I heard him tell me that we were gonna have an underpass right at University Parkway at State Street.
We were,
No, I believe it's gonna happen next year.
no, it was on the plan.
I know,
An underpass?
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the. I
kind of
think
like
it's-
they've done up Bangor Road.
Aha.
oh,
I
you mean
think,
here?
I think what we need to do is get the
Yeah.
boring company and go from here to here.
Now we're talking.
I'm serious.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we can shrink University back to Vanderbilt Road.
If you were thinking really radically, okay? You put a subway from down here all the way to BYU.
There you go.
Well, that's my thought would have been basically dedicated 3-lane road. You know, in, out, and your transit lanes so that, you know, you're not on top.
That's a
But you've
medical
also talked
center.
about that.
That's a medical.
I
center.
agree with
Well,
that too.
that's a school, actually.
But that
That's
one's
the
harder to
autism
sell,
school.
getting
Well,
people to pay for.
That's the
Or is the autism school?
autism.
That's the Autism Academy. So that should be a school. Where's our education color? Now I forgot.
Well,
Blue?
it's a private
Dark blue.
institution. That's like the
Dark blue.
college. It's not a public facility
it's-
zone.
Well,
All the other schools are owned by the city/school.
school.
So they're
So it's-
government agencies.
That's why
That's
it's
a
PS.
private institution.
Or, yeah, PS, professional services.
Yeah.
Private.
Yeah, it's a private.
So you could have done Mazer.
Yeah. Mazer's outside.
Oh, well.
Those are just right on the
Mazer's
border,
and Linden.
right on the border.
I didn't realize that, but that makes sense. It's, yeah.
It is. Didn't know that. I thought it was right after Mazer.
This is our industrial, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And some of it's
I
not
had
even.
an interview with Clyde. Clyde?
So down here, some of this is county land
Hmm.
in here too, but this is all right. It's unincorporated, right? The little
Yeah.
jogs in
Yep.
here.
So you're saying if I wanted to start my own city, that's it?
That's it.
There we go.
Well, we just are starting a new city.
Utah City, Utah County, Utah State.
No, Spring Lake,
Spring Lake.
new city
Where's that going?
between Payson and Santa.
Really?
Oh, they're doing Ogden Valley too up there.
Yeah, they got tired of what Payson was doing, so they
No,
took their unincorporated butts and started their own city.
I love that. Cool. In between Payson and Springville?
Exactly.
Mixed bag. Good thing and bad things associated with that.
Yeah.
So, anything else we want to go over? I mean, there's some of the areas we've talked about looking at commercially or developmental wise. You just had it up there.
All right.
Because there's a stationary master plan area that's this area. I just am pointing it out so people can see, like, it's like this area. Actually, it goes further than that, doesn't it? 'Cause it's a half mile, so it's about.
And that's the state
Cuts
Utah
across the road just a
concept,
little bit.
Yeah.
walkable neighborhoods, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, no.
It's like we can kind of.
No.
No, we just have to come.
Build a plan
The
because
reason-
we gave you this train
Train
station
station.
you didn't ask for.
The
So-
reason I include in the future study is per the state mandate, we have to do an implementation plan and follow it,
Got it.
And then
at least for right, as it stands right now.
we've talked about at the mouth of Provo Canyon, looking at that and seeing if we can make that some sort of recreation zone or for like for encouraging development, that kind of development there. So that would be this area down here. I know Provo is doing stuff with some of this and we did a little bit of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Provo's got
right
that.
here.
We already got the same kind of crap they've got right there too. We do professional services probably.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if we want that to be like a recreation zone or like, what kind of services do we want there? Do we want a hotel down there? Do we want
Tourism.
tourism
center.
stuff, whatever, like,
I think that passage has got enough tourism as it is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, do you want to attract
it's already
more?
there, but do you want
yeah.
them to stop here and get their skis before they go
so-
up here? Or do you want them to get their skis? I don't know. where they get skis.
At the
That
mine
makes sense.
facility.
Or they're coming down from skiing, you want them
Stop and
to
have
stop and
dinner.
have dinner.
Or have, we were talking about that area and would it be short-term rentals or? do
You have all this, but it's like, you know.
It'd be cool actually is if there was a hospital or something there.
There is
Was it really?
Well, there's a treatment to
behavioral
behavioral and
facility.
Oh,
the circ.
And then there's a bunch of offices, doctor's offices.
So this is the River Woods, right?
Yeah.
And then this is, where
That's
Asian Noni
Vivid
and stuff used to be.
Aptiv and, Qualtrics.
And then there's more medical offices and stuff back here. That's Provo.
that's
That's Provo. It's not passing judgment.
That's Provo.
I'm okay if you pass judgment personally, but.
Yeah, because
This is
it's
for-
Provo.
Because it's
This
Provo.
is forever on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's Provo. I love Provo.
Just remember, this is green.
I was born to be offensive.
Well, they gotta
What
know we
am I
got some
supposed to
sense
do?
of humor though.
So, and I guess the other thing to talk about briefly, like just looking at State Street, there's the full corridor, but we've also talked about segmentation, not in the same sense as State Street Master Plan, but in the sense that what we do between 20th and 8th and what we do between 8th and Center and what we do between Center and 8th South, like as you go down.
And part of this is, as you look at a map, how do you represent that on the map? And separately, how are you representing it not off the map, like the actual standards?
Well, what you
There's
should
language
do
we're
is
trying
make
to
it look
encourage.
more like a Disneyland map.
now
So
we're
you're
talking.
showing highlights down the road.
So I get what we want to try to do along State Street. But it seems to me that that's going to be very emotional, controversial
It's its own.
topic. But one that I believe we need to address. I mean, we can't ignore it and pretend it's going to go away. To me, I think we need to be proactive.
I would actually put out there too, there's no one right solution of way to do it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of saying, hey, we can try our best to say, what does this look like? Get people's input, get people's opinions, and we say, okay, we're thinking that this is the direction we want to move forward with. This is going to look very different and in very many different areas because we want to try and cater to these different perspectives.
Well, it's already kind of started down here with the consultants they've hired
Mhm.
for the heart of Orem. And so it seems to me like we could, look at other parts and go, okay, this is what we would like to concentrate as far as a target.
And I think some of this overlaps with right now in the general plan and right now what's highlighted on this map is only two types of commercial. It's either community or regional. And you read the definitions in the current one, they overlap. they're almost identical. Like, what is the difference? And I think maybe having some other designations of what we want it to be, not that this is all community commercial, but maybe some, I don't know what some other categories could be, but like,
Well, and you had,
what did we, I don't remember. What you said.
small business, neighborhood commercial, you had, I think the other one that I, from the notes, it was called
We had mixed, I know we had mixed use industrial. we
research
had
parks.
Oh, yeah. Well, like accelerator.
Accelerator.
Yeah, we talked about
talked
incubators and
accelerator Kind of
accelerators.
thing, is how does that fit in there?
Are those overlays? Are those actual regions?
Maybe they're regions. I mean, overlays are great, but maybe it depends on the grain. How much does it really fit that area? And if it does, great. The other thing to think about is when you put that in there, if we say neighborhood commercial as a land use category, what are the zones that go with that? Because that's part of
And
it
then
too.
it trickles down to then you're gonna say, okay, what uses are we gonna try and allow or disallow?
Yes, because
at that
this iteration of the general plan is going to feel like we were talking about earlier, like a to-do list. So we're going to create a category. Let's create a category neighborhood commercial. We say it belongs in this area where we've got the most like kind of stabilizing. We need to stabilize neighborhoods kind of areas, like in here. So we want neighborhood commercial, but we don't have zoning categories that go with that. So really, what it is a to-do item. We need to look at what kind of zoning or buffering requirement ought to be in that area, and that's all it's really doing. The moniker only has to tell us what to do.
And isn't it conflicting right now? Because right now we have this all marked as
No
regional,
commercial.
but isn't this R3, or I always get R2 and R3.
C3.
C3, sorry,
Yeah, C3 zoning.
long day. But which is not that type. It's,
No.
well, in theory, it's supposed to be the lesser impact because of the neighborhoods right around it.
So it's kind of a
that's,
funny dichotomy to
This
say.
is
we want
C3.
unless the,
regional
I think that's
commercial,
C2.
well, it's right here, because remember we didn't change the.
Yes,
it's
I just
what's-
mean here to here is C3.
Yeah,
But this, I think, is a C2 park.
well, yeah, and then
These
it
are
moves.
C2.
But I'm
Doesn't
saying
have the
it's, but
highway
it's
service.
inconsistent. That's the point
Yes.
I'm trying to make, is that what's on here is kind of inconsistent with what we have it zoned, and
Yeah.
what would we really like to see there?
Sure.
And I mean, yes, I think we think this part of A is highly commercialized already. What can we do there? But there's
Like-
houses.
We could say,
Yeah.
like we were
Houses.
talking,
I
this
mean,
is a
neighbors right there.
medical instead of a C2, C3.
Yeah.
It's just
Yes.
medical.
You gotta run to an appointment.
Okay.
You're not gonna drive?
Well, no, our city's super.
I just didn't know where. but-
Every city's super walk.
Super walk.
Thank you.
If you're willing to walk.
Yeah, seriously.
So,
I think it's more of a zoning classification.
Yeah.
so kind of looking at some of that and kind of thinking, and maybe that's something to go home and stew on and ponder.
I do like the neighborhood commercial designation for some of these places that we're trying to protect.
And that,
And then define what that means and.
We
what-
could do things like local, a stylist, she wants to open a shop in her home, in neighborhood commercial
Sure.
use.
yeah, kind of overlaps with that accessory commercial concept that I.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
talked to you,
yeah.
As far as from a zoning perspective.
Should we look at that kind of as a concept, accessory commercials, and see if that fits as something we ought to look at if we did a neighborhood commercial?
Yeah, I think it's a
But-
really
I
There's
great.
a
mean,
lot
but
of little
long-term, see,
things
this is
like
the
that
other,
that people
like-
don't mind having in their
Yeah.
neighborhood.
So some of this is
And you can
dominoes to our
actually welcome-
business.
Yeah.
What does
yeah.
our code say about
Pianos,
in-home
teacher.
businesses?
Right.
Because
These
some
are
of
all
those are
little
gonna have
local
to,
businesses.
Those are gonna have to
that,
mesh. And then other businesses that make sense, so like you develop a commercial code that focused on, I mean, you gotta have the stuff that people, that if you have lots of people live in those areas around there, you want easy access to dentists and eye doctors and more dentists and Amuchis here and there,
yeah.
you want or Menchie's or whatever.
Well, and I think that that's where we have to kind of say, how do we maybe encourage some more of those types of
Yeah.
businesses?
Neighborhood oriented stuff.
Yeah.
How do people feel about excluding or including car lots
Yeah.
along State Street? And
Finding
we've
where
got,
they go is again.
we got some big ones here. We already talked to them recently, but
We have them literally.
All up and down.
My kids and I counted one time. It was like were like car lots and we just went all the way down State Street and it was
Are they big lots
Shocking.
or are they?
Small lots.
they're small lots, but they're
You weren't
mixed.
discerning.
We have
necessarily.
some big lots.
What?
Yeah, you were just counting how many actual.
How many actual car for sales with autos? I mean, there's some along 8th too. There's one along 8th.
We could-
There's a lot of
And I
those.
personally don't think that's all that great, but
They take up a lot of space,
But that's a lot of,
They're better than a car wash.
better than car washes.
we've plenty
no
of.
You
argument
feel
that
like we've reached car wash saturation at this point?
About 2 car washes ago.
But to company,
Yeah.
what's that?
Oh, we're going to annex that.
Oh, that's you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is
That's
that
where
where
I
you
look.
are? I was gonna say,
We're going to annex that.
and
in
you
in
were
just a
talking
second.
about,
Yeah.
Annexation.
I'm for it.
We'll go for it.
That or just
Just the one. Why don't you just seed from Provo?
that.
you're an
Free
attorney,
state of.
make it happen. So, groundwork.
We believe in Gary.
Well, we could talk to Provo if they would trade me for a first round draft pick and an undisclosed amount of cash.
So with the car lots, I've mentioned this before, I don't know if in the meeting formally, but I'm really concerned that Orem's starting to look like South Salt Lake.
With all the little lots all up and down.
And just, you know, the different types of stores that are not well kept and they just look like, to me, it's not the city image, not what we're trying, if we're Family City USA, I think we just need to be focusing on different things along State Street.
And this is kind of some of what we talked about last time. Hasten was bringing this up because he's had a car lot on State Street, but talking about the need to be able to redevelop or have maybe discussions with the city about how we can infuse cash to some of these smaller places to help them be able to. He's like, I would have planted trees.
Yeah.
Like if it was
Could've
just a
been
few
an option.
$100 of like put some trees in front, do a few things. So there's, as we're talking about State Street, those are some of the things that I agree.
Great. And
Yeah.
anything we can do to encourage small, medium-sized businesses along State Street.
Which I
Well,
know
some of
was
that
what your
is
point was,
instead of
because the city
C2 doing a
council-
local commercial where
Well,
you're focusing on local business.
so to clarify, I
smaller
didn't do it
stores,
there.
Local.
Less big
Because I didn't want
box.
to drop bombs on
Yeah.
people too much.
Yeah.
Replacing businesses that have gone out of business is not business development. It's maintaining status quo and certainly not looking toward the future. And we could be doing a lot better. You brought it up. We could be doing stuff up there if we just decide as a city that these are the kind of businesses we want to go after. We're going to help encourage them. We're going to make it part of our coordinated plan of attack.
That's what we need to do here. That's what we need to present to
Should
the
have
city
made that
council.
Timpanogos
That that's
School
what we want to
District.
see, that it isn't just about, like you're saying, a business coming in here. It's saying, what can we do with these business parks in this area to help create accelerators?
Yep.
Or low rent spaces for people to try out. Because wouldn't it be nice to have a nice little market where you could go and people have like, kind of like food trucks where people have small little stalls where they can try out their idea and
You
see
mean
if it
like
even
fruit
flips?
stands?
Or like,
Ah,
or like
it's a
the fall farmer's market that's,
Mhm.
yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. But where people have a low rent opportunity to be able to do that.
And
But
you go to places like St. George or the weather's better, you know, whatever, they have those all over the place.
But so I think that is, as we're having this discussion, as we get close, as we draft, these are things you guys can write emails about and send to Jared or send in that as you have these ideas, let's write them down. Let's keep them together. Let's collect them so that we can make goals as we can make statements about it. Because I think community commercial to us is more than just saying doctor's office and dentist's office. Community commercial is things
I
that
think it's
directly,
less saying that
less saying that, well, whichever way.
because those are all over the place.
But we need to redefine what community
Right.
commercial is. We need to redefine what regional is and what we consider regional.
Because when I think of community commercial, I'm thinking something right there
Right.
in
so
the
that
middle
we
of a
change
bunch
it-
of houses.
And that's
You
fine.
don't put a dentist office in the middle of the neighborhood
No.
because now you're just going to jack up all the street and the
Right. But,
traffic. And
but I'm just saying, as we define it, however we choose to define it,
Yeah.
we need to be getting more to these definitions. We need to be producing some of these more specific
What I think is
What
the
we-
notification maps, you know, when you show that nice
The rings.
circle, that's when you put a business in there, that's basically your customer base is that circle. Most people in the city won't go to that place.
Right.
And it's a small, you know, small gig, serves the community around it really well. We have 20 of them, you know. You know,
That's local commercial, or local oriented commercial.
yeah,
You want to make sure, you want both kinds. But you want to define, you want to organize where they're going so that their impacts, so that their benefits and their impacts are balanced.
And then certain types of those commercials are going to feed into others
Yeah.
and be magnets that attract others and also give and take to others as well.
Right, so how do we want to break down? If community commercial to us really is the small nodes, the small business things, then what would the next size up of commercial be?
I would say local commercial, community commercial, regional commercial.
And you may not even want to frankly spend the time right now with the general plan update, making those definitions, as opposed to saying, look, as we've looked at, we really need to figure out what is community commercial, local commercial, regional commercial, and make and come up with a strategy of what those are, what we're going to say yes to, and by consequence, knowing what to say no to, what we're going to put our money in. And that, and the general plan sets out that as kind of a goal. Then as soon as the general plan's done, then we start.
yeah. I
And
don't.
and it's,
away.
it's
you would
fine to do that way.
put
We
dots
just
for
currently
community
have those
commercial.
definitions in our general plan, so that's why, and that's how this map has been done. Which
Yeah.
is why, that's the only reason I bring it up, because obviously we don't want to keep just these two. If we,
Yeah,
when we do
it-
this map, we want more.
Yeah, and that can be a part of it is the general plan land use map doesn't really address our needs. We need to get into it more and do a more refined view of it with an updated economic development strategy to come up with exactly what we want to do and how we're going to now do it.
Yeah, it seems the more we talk about this, the more we look at things. I just want to kind of clarify this. It feels like the general plan is really just turning into a list of, these are all the things we need to address, look into,
Well,
coordinate, as opposed to, here's our plan for Orem.
Well,
And how do we balance that? I think that that's a,
yes, and I'll tell you why, because I think if we really wanted, here's our plan for Orem, this would be a 2 to 3 year process. We'd be doing all of this type of thing like that. And then going through that kind of this iterative process, and at the end of 3 years, do we have buy-in? I would like to get the buy-in on the high level principles first. Everybody agrees, yet we need to more refine what local, regional, and neighborhood commercial is, analyze the city land use pattern with a finer tooth comb, do all of those things and set out a list of, now we're going to attack it step by step. Instead of we get $300,000, hire a consultant who's going to come in and we're going to hold charrette after charrette after charrette. We know what some of the problems are, but the problems are too big for the time, money, and resources that I have in this department
agree.
to be able to do it. So part of this, I could see in the general plan coming back and saying, yeah, here's 20 different things we need to do. We recommend prioritizing, starting with, if the economic development portion's it, let's do the economic development portion.
It's residential, let's start with.
Yeah, well, you saw in that
Yeah.
meeting, the joint meeting, or no, it was a different meeting, sorry. Bren and I were going, yeah, when's the last time we did an economic development plan and really got in and figured it out? And Ryan said, we did one just like
We
3
did one a
years
couple years
ago.
ago.
And I'm like, I'm the director of the department. I don't even know this.
It was the first one we did when I was on, and then we did the transportation. after
Yeah,
that
and
one.
it's like, what kind of plan? This must not be a very robust plan if nobody's really talking about it and we have a whole strategy around it and we're systematically going through and trying to accomplish it.
Part of what we did in the transportation master plan was a reaction to what had happened when we did the economic plan.
Yeah.
So part of the reason we dug in deeper, part of the reason we put more effort into it was because
So see, in a perfect world, what I would have preferred to do is nothing with the general plan. We would spend a time on even a step above the general plan. And we're just talking about fundamental principles upon which we should organize and guide our city. We would then take those and use that as the basis upon which to build a general plan. And then once we did that, now we would come in with specific ordinance changes and things like that. So in the hopes of making more concise, stripping down the general plan and maybe putting more specific plans in an appendix, we can make that general plan kind of that higher level principle upon which our more specific plans, the parks plan, the economic development plan, neighborhood plans, can now follow these general principles, the transportation master plan, and guide them. You know, because the transportation master plan, you know, how do we go about that? How do we do it? Are we worrying about regional movement, or are we worried about our residents and our businesses first,
Yes.
and then accommodating regional issues later? You know, that's a significant difference of how you approach things.
well, and then also going in where our regional commercial is, how do we make sure we got transportation there that makes sense in and out, as opposed to other parts of the city?
So for my edification, from a 50,000-foot perspective, what was the previous economic plan for, or the one that's currently on the
Oh,
book?
you can go read it.
I need to, because I can't tell you. I'm the director of the department. It's my responsibility and I don't know.
Well,
I read it. I'm trying to dig it out of my, I mean, it was a lot of, this
Which
is what
plan?
we, economic?
Development.
Was that right before you came on?
Before
I
me.
think you came on. It was one of the first things.
Because I was thinking, I didn't go through the
Yeah.
transportation master plan because of anything but the master plan.
I mean, all that sticks with me 3 years later is that it was we have these kinds of businesses and we want these kinds of businesses. But that's all that I remember.
I'm gonna, this is like a burr in my saddle right now, so I'm gonna find the plan. I'm gonna read it before our next meeting.
So,
Find it email.
Please.
Yeah.
This is really important to me. Because
So with Gary's statements about some of this stuff, I think we need to get a little broader and say red and define what red means.
Yep.
We're doing, business, commercial, and the types of things that means. And then professional space, if we want, along the freeway, highway services. That's what that means, housing, this is just housing in general.
well, wouldn't you agree the exception would be the areas we're trying to rejuvenate and,
Well, this is just general, so it's housing. Right?
yeah, but I would argue that's a different category because there's funding that needs to be attached to it. And that takes.
Well,
But that's not the general, that's the other one, right?
That's the next step.
I think,
Okay.
well, like for this map, yes, some level of it
Yeah,
is saying.
That's all I'm
low,
saying.
medium,
I'm
high.
going with Gary's point that
Yeah,
at a general, we're saying we want professional office along here and industrial right here. We want commercial right here, and this is our housing area, the general plan.
Okay.
This is,
Yeah.
we want farmland right here, boom, it's farmland.
farmland.
We want a zoo right here, boom, it's a zoo.
And then the next step is, okay, yes, we want red, we want commercial. Now we need to identify good areas for regional commercial, to
Right.
bring people in. We need to find other areas that are more local commercial.
Start talking, here's our medical corridor.
Yeah,
So we have a commercial
yeah.
specifically for medical.
Yeah. And now we know when somebody comes in and somebody wants to, I don't know, put in a taco shop in this area, we're like, well, why don't we look over in here?
It's available.
Right.
Go to Taco Park.
Yeah. Title correct's working.
And we have identified some, sorry.
I just check on this talk part.
I was gonna say, we have identified some of the corridors. I think that like as goals, like we need to drill down Geneva. We need to drill down University Parkway. We need to do State Street, 8th North. Where
Center
else?
Street.
Center Street right around the city center. Yeah, the heart of downtown.
We ought to fix that. Take the bump out of Geneva.
Now, having said what I said, we are working on right now. We're having planners on it, code enforcement, economic development. We're looking at the entire State Street corridor and trying to prioritize areas that maybe need the biggest helping hand, what kind of helping hand they need, what resources from the city are available. Are there grants available? Is there CDBG funding? Is there enforcement that we just need to go in and do? Are there code changes that, because maybe in an area, frankly, we may, yeah, you want to do a little change there. Yeah, you're going to have to tear down your building and rebuild. Sorry, that's our plan for this area. We really want to do it. Maybe in this area, it's no, let's change it. You want to plant a few trees? Okay. Yeah. What can we do just to make it better? Because what I heard somebody say the other day that, one size fits all misfits everyone,
So can we in the general plan, this is going to be a dirty word, I'm sure. I believe that we need to, based on our conversation, smartly partner with developers to help make some things happen. And by that, I mean, not have them tell us what to do. We define what we want to done, and then partner with people to help pay for that and make it happen.
Yeah, that's how you're successful. The reality is, and some people don't want to hear it, but 90+% of everything you see built in Orem, a developer built. Developer builds 90+% of your community. What our job is to figure out what we want, and in the areas that we want, clearly articulate it, and then make it easy for a developer
To help us
execute the vision that we have.
for that one little
For that thing that we have a vision for. In other areas, if we don't want things in there, you make it hard not to do it. I mean, hard to do it, so it doesn't happen. There's a bigger, more cumbersome process.
kind of like a poison pill.
Or, you have to do zone changes, you have to do a general plan amendment, you have to do all of these things so that to change dramatically from where we've said we want to go, the community's involved and we know. But in an area where, yeah, this is the type of thing we want to make it easy. And we want somebody, if they have a good idea, they're willing to build in accordance with our vision, let's help them get in and get it done as quickly as they can.
Because that's the only way, in my view, we're going to be able to afford some of this. And I realize we're starting to get back down in the weeds,
Yeah.
but that's still a concept.
But that's a concept that you can take. So, you have a general plan with general principles for the whole city. Then what you would have as a part of that is the heart of downtown plan. You would have a southwest plan. You would have a State Street, maybe Parkway corridor plan. Maybe you have a North State Street plan. And that's where I know nobody burned me at the stake for saying this, the old State Street plan, that's one of the things that they did right. They had different areas divided up with a lot of thought into the different things that should go there. Now, the execution of it may not be what we had wanted it to be, but that type of idea is, I think, the right way to go.
Probably the only way we can do it.
I think what they proposed was appealing to a lot of people. It's just not what they put in the books.
The issue was what the statutes were.
Yeah,
It
they
was not-
certainly didn't write up
Yeah.
what they put on paper.
Because they said 16th North was different than Center, but
Yeah.
then it was the identical code.
Yes.
And that's really where it
They,
fell
they
apart.
also said, you know, we're gonna be limited on this, this and this, and then they were.
Yeah.
So
And
that's why
So we need to make
everybody's
sure
up in
that
arms,
doesn't
because those pictures had nothing to do with what you actually put in the
See,
code.
again, don't let my incompetence be misconstrued for.
No, but I know what your point, and I agree, you know, we've got sections because, like we're saying, medical, it makes sense because we've already got a hospital there, we've got
Yeah.
medical, surgery going in, we've got, office spaces going in. It makes sense, and so you would think about that area, and we don't want 40 different medical corridors.
No, but expanding it even further
Yeah,
down
so,
here,
but
as these
you
changes,
play
these
off, if we could put
development,
an imaging center in that area,
there is
well, now
one.
they take more advantage. If we can get, you know,
Isn't there one right there?
dialysis center there.
There's one right
I'm just
there,
saying, you're throwing more and more in
right
there.
next to Sonic.
And
There's
then
one in
these
there.
are medical buildings for the most
Yeah,
part.
and then once you get the medical campus down
Here,
here,
coming up 8th makes sense.
this whole area over here is gonna be ripe for that too.
Yep.
So,
I mean, it makes sense.
In, Rochester, where the Mayo Clinic is, they have a big plan concept called community caring that's centered around the Mayo Clinic and all the different medical stuff that they've done. It's like a big deal to get people that are undergoing therapies, treatments and things outside. They have a lot of code in that area that requires space between buildings that's park-like or whatever, wide sidewalks.
Open space and green.
Yeah, communities of caring. That could be your corridor.
Yeah.
Especially if it connects to something Vineyard's doing. Okay.
Well, and the fact that it literally is homes,
Yeah,
solid homes.
all in the back of it. So, and it can be a good neighbor. It can be a terrible neighbor, but it can be a great neighbor too.
Yeah, IHC was a horrible improv.
Okay,
All right.
should we call that good for tonight? It's
This is
7.
really helpful, you guys. Thank you. I know it's a lot of work to talk around on that, but I think it helps us know where we're going more. Some of these things.
Who do I send my consultant to go to?
Yeah, you send it to me and I'll give it to Gary.
And he'll laugh.
We have petty change, petty council.
He'll put a lemon drop on your dessert next time.
Okay,
You-
then,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still over there, guys.
Okay. then we'll adjourn our work session and
See you next.
Ready break.
Yep.